This channel, this show, me and you, this is what it's all about right here. This is why we do this. This is why we're here. This is why we started this a zillion years ago. Posted my first video in January of 2010. Look it up. I was just sitting on a couch. This is why we do it. We are here to talk college football with you and to hear from you and to discuss and debate and have a good time talking college football and the game we love. So aside from all the theatrics of what is and what isn't, what I would like this to be and what it is not, it comes down to that, simply talking college football with you. That's why we leave the link there in the chat. That's why we have talked more college football with you than anyone in existence. I will stand on that. I cannot imagine that there is a channel out there that has talked more college football for a longer time on more videos, even though we don't produce videos anymore, very rarely. I think I did one the other day on Michigan, and I do those instant analysis videos still on Saturday afternoons. Try to do 6, usually get about 3 or 4 done. But besides, though, we no longer produce videos here at the Voice of College Football. Unfortunately, I would like to, but we no longer have time to do that. But coming here live, and consider this, if you've only been watching for a few weeks or a few months or even for a year or so, you were not getting the best. You were not getting, if I can speak, you were not getting the best of what we do. You're not getting prime Voice of College Football. And I don't like that, but that's just the way it is. But still, even not at our peak, in our prime, with our most resources and most time to give you, still here 6 days a week. Me personally, still here 6 days a week. So roughly 9 to 10 hours live here, plus Florida State Live, plus Ohio State Live, plus Miami Live, plus Iowa Live. I am live for a good 15 hours a week, and that's not even close to what we used to do. So just consider this. We provide more opportunity for you to talk college football, and we deliver more college football talk than anybody ever, probably in the history of the world, when you really think about it, because YouTube's only been around, of course, since 2006. I would love that. That is going to be my challenge to whomever would like to take it on. And if there's anybody else that has produced more college football content than the Voice of College Football, meaning, then I would love to see that. I think I'm going to send that out into the ether here over the next several weeks. I'm just curious to see if anybody else could come up with anyone, and maybe they do exist. Maybe they do exist. It would just be interesting to see. So I don't know why I started off on that tangent, but I did. And we are here to talk college football with all of you on the cusp of week. I get them confused. It doesn't matter. It's the mid-November portion of college football. I think it's week 12. And we've got a special guest standing by in a few minutes. Hopefully, Adam Carricker will get on in here very soon. In the meantime, we got Caden stopping by to talk some college football, hopefully.
Good evening, Mark. How are you tonight, sir?
Caden, I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
You want to talk college football? Let's do that, sir, since this is what you want to ask. But, you know what? I'm going to bring it to you tonight. College football, there's a couple things I want to talk about. Ohio State's schedule is weak, and it's, as far as I'm concerned, literally the next couple weeks is literally going to be nobody. I mean, literally, Ohio State plays nobody. Has played nobody this season. Seriously. I mean, if you get my discretion, but that's just because I feel Ohio State, as far as the Big Ten goes, I mean, there's some decent teams, but like as far as like out of conference goes, seriously, I seriously don't. I don't even know why we schedule teams that can't even beat Ohio State. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay, so I guess you want a response to that. Well, first of all, Ohio State has handed their Big Ten schedule just like everyone else. So they have no control over 9 of those 12 games. Absolutely none.
Right. Right.
So I would say that they are playing, by the time we get to season's end, they will have played probably the third or fourth best team in the Big Ten, Michigan. They will have played the fifth or sixth best team in the conference, something in that range in Washington. They will have played the seventh or eighth or ninth best team in the conference in Illinois. And am
Mhm.
I missing anyone?
Mhm.
Those are the highlights
You're
of the
not missing
season.
anybody. You're
That's
not
pretty much
missing
it.
anybody.
Yeah.
Here,
I'm
but
not
here's
I'm
my
not discounting what you're saying. Yeah,
but
it's a
here's
weak
my thing.
schedule.
Ohio State needs to schedule tougher opponents out of conference because as far as out of conference goes, it stinks.
They
Texas.
scheduled the toughest
Here's the thing, Mark.
possible opponent they could find this past
No, here's
season.
the thing, Mark. Here's the thing. Week one, we had Texas at home, and this was a team that everybody was talking about for the last couple of months since Arch Manning was the quarterback since he got the starting job at Texas after Quinn Ewers left. And everybody's like, "Oh, this Texas team is going to come in Ohio State week one and beat us." What did Ohio State do? Beat Texas in a 7-point game, and Texas didn't even play any ball against Ohio State. Like, seriously, Texas? And y'all just, I don't even understand why they
Who were
put
they
Texas.
supposed to schedule that would have been tougher than Texas? Caden, you talk like these games are scheduled like 10 days before they play. These
It's
games
like
are
they
scheduled
don't even
way
want
in
to put.
advance. They played the number one team in the country. Are they supposed to see into the future? Texas is still a good team. Are they as good as they were supposed to be? Well, that actually remains to be seen because they're starting to pull it together. But no, probably they're not as good as they were anticipated to be. But that is one of the more legitimate out of conference games that anybody played in college football. I'm
Okay,
not
okay.
understanding your complaint here.
But here's my complaint, Mark. Can't we at least schedule somebody like of Texas Tech, Miami, Georgia Tech? Can we schedule somebody that's tough for once?
They scheduled Texas.
Texas Tech. I said Texas
I know
Tech.
you said Texas Tech. And how many times is Texas expected to be better than Texas Tech? Well, about 9 out of every 10 years. Like what are we talking about here? Georgia Tech? Georgia Tech is generally like a 500 football team. What
Like right now, like here's the thing for this season right now. I would have rather
Yes,
played.
the games don't get scheduled a week before they start the season. Who in the world would have thought, "Oh, you know what? We should take out that Texas game that Ohio State's going to play because we want to see them play somebody tougher." How about Georgia Tech? What are we talking about? What are we talking about? You're sitting here in week 10 of the season looking back at week 1 and hand picking teams that might be better. I don't know that Texas Tech's better than Texas. I don't know that Georgia Tech's better than Texas. They're about the same at this point. What
Here's my thing, Mark. Until week 11 of this season, because I watched every single game Ohio State has played. Here's my thing. The out of conference games, such as Texas, Grambling State, and Ohio, sucked. Because literally, Grambling State and Ohio, we beat them by multiple digits. Sucked. And I don't even know why we play weak teams in week 2, week 3,
everybody
week 4.
does.
Like, seriously.
Everybody does.
Yeah, well, it's getting
What do you
boring
want
to
Ohio
me.
State to play a non-conference schedule of Texas, Georgia Tech, and Alabama? Is that what you want the out-of-conference schedule to be? Because I'm
I
telling
mean,
you, Ryan
please,
Day doesn't want it to
because
be that. Nobody wants it to be that because that's ridiculous. They don't need to play those teams. And it's
unfortunately,
counterproductive.
and here's my opinion, Mark. And
Nobody else does that.
And here's my opinion. You can disagree with me on this. The
Well,
Big
I've
Ten
disagreed with
is,
most of everything you've ever stated, but go right ahead.
and you've also hated me for the last
Yeah,
year and a half.
I don't
But
hate
that's a
anyone.
whole nother subject.
You don't occupy that much time in my head for me to hate you. But go ahead.
Oh, the Big Ten is one of the weakest conferences right now. as far as strength of conference goes, because Ohio State right now is the number one team in the Big Ten. Number 2 is Indiana, and number 3 is Oregon. But the rest of the conference, garbage. Seriously, garbage. And here's the thing. That just tells me Ohio State, in my opinion, should move from the Big Ten. They should move because we've beaten Indiana in the past and we've beaten Oregon in the past. So I don't know why we even have Wisconsin, let alone Iowa and Nebraska. Nebraska, don't get me started on them. I've said they're one of the worst teams in the Big Ten. Like, geez. Like, for the love of God, Northwestern, terrible. Like, I'm sorry, Mark, but this is just my 2 cents in my opinion. But I'm just saying what I think. Like, someone please.
My head's about to explode. It's about to explode. You're randomly just picking out schools and picking on their football teams with no reference. Yes. Does Wisconsin suck right now? Yes, Wisconsin sucks right now. For 30 years, was Wisconsin one of the top programs in the conference? Yes, Wisconsin. Could Wisconsin be really good in 3 years from now? Yes, they could be. Like, things change. There's ebb and flow. Ohio State plays in definitely the second best conference in America, if not the best conference in America. Why would they leave the Big Ten? Financially, it would be a moronic move to make. That's first and foremost. Secondly, they're one of the stalwarts of the conference, if not the program in the conference. They've been there since 1912. That you just, I don't know what you're like. Where do you want them to go to? Where are they supposed to go?
For me, right now, like, if we had to move to a different conference, like next year or 2 years from now, in my opinion, the Big 12.
I know you're going to say that. If you're going to compare the Big 12 and the Big 10.
If BYU, Texas Tech is saying, hey, we're the 2 toughest teams in the Big 12, and there's probably an uprising, team in the Big 12 that says we want tougher competition, then they need to move Ohio State to the Big 12. I'm sorry, Mark.
Caden, I made a statement last night, and I wish you were around to hear it, because I
wasn't available because obviously you blocked me from all your channels. Apparently,
I didn't block anyone from any channels.
Yeah, you blocked me. You blocked my account.
Yes,
really, I pulled it up on my phone, and it says blocked.
And so you're here now. Anyway.
Well, because I'm having to use a secondary account because you blocked me on my main account.
Yes, because I instructed you of how you needed to behave toward certain people and conduct yourself, and you failed to respond to that. So anyway, here we are. So I don't even know where we were. Ohio State moving outside the Big Ten.
Your problem, Mark, behavior-wise. Quote it, behavior.
Well, I was going to tell you. I was going to let you know about.
Let me tell you this, Mark. Let me tell you this. On my Twitter response, I said, if I have a problem with someone and their statement, I have the ability to call them out. If I wish to call them out, I wish to call them out. And if you have a problem with me calling somebody out for some crap that I don't think that's right and something that I feel that it's not right, I should be allowed to. That's a First Amendment right, for one. And two, if I have a problem.
And
second of all, Mark,
don't talk to me about First Amendment rights.
And here's the other thing, Mark.
First Amendment rights also include the ability of me, given my rights by YouTube, to ban whomever I want or kick them off. Especially when certain things were done where you were instructed a certain way. I'm not going to go into a big thing about this because people don't give a damn about your stupid situation on the channel. They don't care. They want to hear us talk about college football, even at the kindergarten level that we talk about it when we bring you on.
Kindergarten level. Okay,
so,
Mark.
No. I was in the middle of a statement. Then you can say whatever you want, Caden. So what I was starting to point out is that last night I made a statement that fits you perfectly. So Caden, if you took me on your job and into your industry, I guarantee I would have stupid questions to ask. I would make stupid statements. I would make stupid assumptions. I would have all sorts of things that I would be completely ignorant about. Granted, no question about it. And I was making the statement last night that there are a lot of people that come in our chat and they make very stupid comments and so forth, but that's fine. That's great. They're enjoying their leisure. This is their leisure. College football is their leisure. It's not their expertise. It's not their industry. They may be an accountant. They may be a farmer. They might be a plumber. They might be something else. So we welcome them to enjoy it because they're going to make moronic comments. So I will put you in that category. I'm sure you're really good at what you do during the day, but you come on here and you make moronic comments that make absolutely no sense. But thanks for being here, Caden. You got 10 seconds.
Mark, I've got a deal for you. I've got a deal for you. And I think you might like this. Since you don't like me, if someone don't...
Okay, that I'm done with idiots that talk about I don't like them. I don't care enough about you to not like you or hate you or like you. You are neutral in my... Caden, you're fine. You're welcome here. You just want to gain attention by saying how much you're hated by everyone. Okay. Let's talk to not just a reasonable person. Let's talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about, more so than myself even. We're talking a guy that's done it on the field at every level. First-round draft pick by the Redskins, of course, one of the Nebraska greats, All-American, and a national champion. And it's Adam Carricker here from Carricker Chronicles. Adam, it's always good to see you, sir.
It's good to see you as well. Unfortunately, I got a ring in college, but it was not a national championship, but I got a wife. But yeah.
What were your seasons there?
03 to 06.
03 to 06. Okay, so I was off on that. What in the world was I thinking? Anyway,
that's all right.
Regardless.
You can throw more accolades
the Redskins, fine NFL
and
career,
I'll take it.
The whole deal. Absolutely.
Yeah, you can throw more accolades my way and I'll just take it. It's all good.
Yeah, well, you can pretty much, if you go back at least 20 years for Nebraska football and just say somebody won a national championship, you're probably right most of the time. So it was unfortunate what happened last Saturday night because I really anticipated this game against USC. I was talking about it all week. If I could only watch one game, that's the game I want to see because this middle to upper portion of the Big Ten really interests me, that we, for as much as I'm a purist, didn't want to see the Pac-12 go away, like the Big Ten the way it was and all those things, we suddenly have all these like Illinois USC, USC Michigan, Nebraska USC, et cetera, games where we're deciding playoff spots. And, you know, this would have just been a logo helmet game in the past with 2 losses by each team, but it meant a whole lot. Unfortunately, with Nebraska needing a breakthrough, their leader and their quarterback was not on the field for most of the second half. And we just really, you know, you don't want to take away the win from USC. They earned it, but who knows what would have happened.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Nebraska came out and played really well. Marched right down the field, scored a touchdown, limited USC in the first half. It's throughout the entire game through the air. I mean, USC averaged almost 330 yards passing, number 1 passing offense in the country, and they walked away with 135 for the game. And they had 337 total yards of offense when they averaged 530 total yards of offense per game, which was, again, number 1 in the country for total offense and passing yards per game coming into the game. So Nebraska's defense as a whole, the pass defense played well. A couple of unfortunate things. If you're a Nebraska fan, you gave up 202 rushing yards on the ground to USC. And USC averaged about 200 rushing yards per game. So they kind of met their average, but that's still more than you want to give up if you want to be one of the top defenses in the country. And then obviously Dylan Raiola goes down. That's kind of an unfortunate thing, to put it mildly. But we'll see what happens here going forward. TJ Lateef is a guy who brings something a little bit different, a little bit more dynamic with his legs to the table. So we will see what Dana Holgorsen chooses to do with TJ Lateef versus UCLA. Then they'll have a bye week to make any adjustments, tweaks, help him get improved and acclimated, being a teenage true freshman starting right now against Penn State. So it's interesting because I actually talked today about how the ceiling for our season actually got higher, not because TJ is a better quarterback. Dylan was a starter for a reason, but because he brings a dynamic that's going to be unpredictable for our next couple of opponents. They won't really know what we're going to do offensively until they see it in the game. So it's going to take a while for them to adjust. And even Penn State, we have a bye week before them, so you can always make a few tweaks then. But the floor is also lower because you don't know what you're going to get from a true freshman quarterback if you're Nebraska. So the ceiling is higher, the floor is lower, ergo more entertaining, I guess.
I'm trying to think of what the score was. I think they were up 14-6.
Yep.
When Raiola went out. And then obviously the 2-point conversion with the touchdown, it's tied. And they actually took a 17-14 lead and back and forth. So anyway, Latif had about, I don't know how many drives exactly. And he was in some tough positions in terms of field position, obviously during the last drive in particular. How do you think that they handled him? Because obviously they're trying to white knuckle a lead when he first gets in there and think, okay, can our defense hold this all the way through? But that's a little unrealistic to think that you can hold USC to 6 points for the entire game. But at the same time, you want to be cautious and handle him in a certain way, but you can't just say, okay, Emmett, you're going to run it 40 times, and that's where we're going to try to get home with a win that way. How do you think they handled that from a play calling standpoint?
I think you outlined it pretty well. It's challenging because you don't want to put TJ in a position where, for lack of a better way of putting it, makes a big mistake to cost you the game, because that's going to be tough for a young quarterback. At the same time, you still got to try to win the game. So it was a bit of a tough position. I wish we would have been a little bit more aggressive. I do wish we'd have done a few more things. At one point in the fourth quarter, we were averaging 1.9 yards per pass attempt. They got to throw the ball farther downfield than that, and that's an absurd understatement. Now, at the same time, there was a few times, I think TJ had 3 fumbles in the game, and a couple of them were unforced, just ball pops out of his hands. That's a young quarterback who hadn't played in 6 weeks, and maybe not a game plan that's exactly for him just because of his skill set. But also, USC went to a 0 blitz at one point. Matt Rule pointed this out in the press conference, and then a bunch of us went and looked at it, and you can see it. So they went to a 0 blitz. No safeties deep. They're going to bring one more blitzer than you can block because the quarterback can't block for himself no matter what you do. And TJ checked audible to a wide receiver screen. And if you see the snapshot, we have about 4 blockers downfield. There's 2 USC defenders. Everyone else is rushing the quarterback, and the receiver is wide open. And that was one of those unforced fumbles that TJ had, just being a young guy. Tough situation. Oh, by the way, he's from Compton, Southern California, playing against USC as well. So that had to be even, more of a factor. But if he just catches that, makes that little dump pass completion, we walk in for a touchdown. So that one play is the epitome of ceiling, floor. We'll see what happens going forward.
So, yeah, you've played a lot of high-level football at the 2 highest levels. Have you been in a situation? I was trying to process because I used to be a NFL junkie, but I've forgotten a lot. Who were the quarterbacks there with the Redskins when you were there? Are we talking like Patrick Ramsey? Was he there?
Donovan McNabb, my first year.
Oh, Donovan McNabb! Wow, with Redskins. Yes,
then they drafted Robert, and then RG3 was the AFC Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
And so pretty much it was those 2 during my time with the Redskins.
Yeah, you guys went to the playoffs, lost a really tough game against the Buccaneers. Seahawks at home. Yeah.
That was the game he tore his ACL, and should he have gone back in? Should he have not have? That was the whole debate. So.
And who came in for him?
Kirk Cousins.
Wow. There you go.
Yep.
Okay. So, yeah, just being in a situation where simultaneously this team's, to a lot of people, their season's over. If it's just playoff or bust. Plus, their quarterback's gone. And then I don't think we give generally, when I'm talking us in general, college football fans these days, post into this NIL era, don't give these student athletes enough credit for being gamers, for playing with pride. A lot of people just automatically comment, well, they're going to toss the season away. They're pointing out teams every week. Oh, they'll mail it in now because they can't play in the playoffs anymore. I think we know better than that. But you've been in situations like this where your hopes are dashed, but you still have football to play. What is that locker room like?
So going back to the preseason, there was a lot of hype around Nebraska. There was a lot of playoff talks. If you watched my show, I did not indulge. And I flat out said, I will not participate in this because the Matt Rule year 3 jump and all this stuff. I was like, hey, that sounds great. I've got to see it. And I looked at the team and I said, here's what I think is realistic. I think to expect 8 wins is realistic. That should be the floor. That should be the floor. Now, the floor at the time was 6-6 and technically still is, I guess, because technically we could end up under 500 or we could end up with 10 wins if we went out and win the bowl game. It's a crazy, like I said, high ceiling, low floor. But I said 8-4 is the bottom of the barrel of what I consider successful because they won 7 games last year or 8 wins. I predicted 9 wins. Admittedly, I predicted 9 wins, and I said that would be the bottom of the barrel, what I consider to be an actual Matt Rule year 3 jump. So the entire year, I have not once talked about Nebraska in the playoffs. That's never been my expectation. Goal, sure. Realistic goal, no. I actually think we're a year away. Youngest team in the Big Ten. Raiola's back. Emmett's back. All the big-time players on offense at skill positions are back. Need to address the O-line, the entire defensive line. First string, second string, third string, with one exception of one player, is all back. And a lot of other guys are back. So for me, the fact that we're eliminated from the playoffs doesn't change anything. And I think Matt Rule and Nebraska feel the same way because I think they want to show improvement, progression, and we are better and we are going in the right direction. And there's a lot of guys who have a lot of pride. Like, to be honest with you, the thought of them not being as motivated, I'll be honest, it didn't even occur to me because my goal, my realistic goal, the goal was obviously the playoffs, national championship, undefeated. Realistic goal was 8 to 9 wins, and that's still right there.
So Matt Rule gets the contract extension, I think, just a couple of days before the USC game.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think any of that had to do with the coaching situations that are opening up across the country?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Now, Troy Dannon did say he had this idea last summer, and he approached Rule, I forget what week 3, week 4, about a potential contract extension. So that would be pre-James Franklin being fired. Okay, but I guarantee, LSU is wide open. Florida is open. UCLA is open. All these jobs are open. That has to factor into this. Plus the whole Matt Rule to Penn State connection that was going on. It has to factor in.
All right. Very good. Anything else about this football team, either side of the ball, that people should be looking out for UCLA game to the end of the season?
So for Nebraska to get to 8 wins, they're going to be an underdog probably in every game they play. They're an underdog at UCLA. They're probably going to be an underdog at Penn State, probably an underdog Iowa. And even the bowl games, like I know the Citrus Bowl wants Nebraska. They've been in at least 2 of our games this year. Now, will we win enough games to warrant the invite? I don't know. But all the bowl game projections I see have us playing like Texas or Oklahoma if they don't make the playoff, or LSU. We'd be an underdog in all those games. All 4 of the remaining games, we're probably going to be an underdog. I'm still going to sit here and say I've watched third string quarterbacks lead Ohio State to a national championship. I've watched backup quarterbacks win Super Bowls. I watched a walk-on third-string quarterback lead Iowa to a victory over us last year. I watched Ohio State lose 40% of their starting offensive line and still win the national title last year. What I'm saying is it's time for us to have to overcome some odds because more often than not, we're the more talented team. Yet other teams beat us too often. It's about time we had to figure it out, crawl out of a hole, and just win, because it's so easy. Just win 50% of your remaining games, and you'll get to that 8-win total, something we used to fire coaches for. But fans would be happy, I'd be happy, and we can build towards the future. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, it's great stuff. Adam Carricker always bringing a great perspective on Nebraska football because obviously he lived it, breathed it, played it, all those things, and then continues to cover it. Carricker Chronicles. Anything in particular that you want to highlight that you're working on that people need to check out?
So in general, you can follow us at 2 main spots. I'm on social media, Facebook, X, and TikTok, but the 2 main spots for the show are carrickerchronicles.com, the website, and YouTube. Type in Carricker Chronicles.
Adam, we appreciate you fighting to get on here tonight because I know you had some technical issues to try to fight through all the accounting and accounts and passwords and all that business. So thanks for doing it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Great to hear from Adam Carricker. Does such a great job with Carricker Chronicles. And we will continue to talk college football and highlight week 12 here at the Voice of College Football. So next up, we got Rob. Rob, what's going on tonight?
Hey, Mark, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I am doing just fine. And, in the aftermath of that first phone call, I want to apologize to everyone. That just almost always goes off the rails to some degree. I don't know if you heard it.
No, I did. No, you don't have to apologize, Mark. I think you've got the patience of a saint. I couldn't do what you do. I'll tell you that much.
It's just, and it's just not what's obvious and apparent to everyone else that's watching too. Believe me, there's a lot more that goes into it. So
yeah. So I wanted to highlight a super chat that Michigander threw out there for him because it was an interesting bit of information that I heard as well on. I forget where I heard it on YouTube somewhere, but Josh Pate basically kind of threw a little tease out that Lincoln Riley might possibly be leaving USC, either getting fired or just moving on voluntarily or whatever that might be. I thought that was an interesting little bit because I don't think LSU would even take Lincoln Riley after the trajectory of what he's done at USC. I don't know that they would want him at LSU. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that they would even take him? I think like Florida, maybe Penn State, maybe Arkansas, something like that.
Well, that was the fun comparison to make because Kelly got the job leaving Notre Dame to go to LSU within the same couple days that Lincoln Riley, of course, left Oklahoma to go to USC. And there was great debate here and all over college football about who's going to do better. Is it going to be Brian Kelly at LSU or is it going to be Lincoln Riley at USC? Well, if Lincoln Riley finishes up with, let's say, an 8-4 season at USC, it's pretty much a dead heat that neither one of them accomplished what they were hired to do at those blue blood level jobs. I don't know unless there's something going on with Lincoln Riley not getting something that he thinks he needs that's getting in his way of winning big at USC, whether that's money, support, resources, whatever it is. All those things are obviously tied together. I don't know why he would leave that job. I don't know what he would expect to do that's better. And I don't know what he thinks he's accomplished at USC, which is nothing. He came very close his first year to doing something special, but did not. That would set him up for, I don't even want to say a better job because I don't know if that exists for sure in the sport from a historic standpoint. But whatever better jobs that there would be, or whatever area of the country or conference or type of setting that he would prefer over USC. The guys had two of the best jobs in America. And, there's thought that he would be leaving the second one like he did the first one.
Yeah. And, I just think he would be kind of foolish to leave USC personally because he does have a really good recruiting class lined up. Now, whether it holds true, that's been one of USC's problems is they've been able to secure these classes, or they think they secure them, and then they kind of fall off, and then they kind of tumble down the rankings a little bit. But if everything holds true, they've got a really solid, future look, like going forward. So I think he'd be kind of silly to leave. Plus, like, it'd be embarrassing, right? Like, you'd take it on the chin, like, oh, look, I wasn't able to get it done. Like, you don't want to go out like Brian Kelly. Like, you don't want to either get, if you leave USC now with what, like you said, what he's accomplished, he hasn't really accomplished anything. In fact, I would say he's underperformed from what most people were assuming he would do, the day that he got hired. So, it's a little interesting information. I just thought you might like to, to pontificate about that.
Absolutely. So, Michigander, thank you so much for the contribution. And just to make sure it gets read here, thoughts on Josh Pate grenade he threw when he was on Bussin' with the Boys. So I got to thank all of you guys for bringing these things to light because I don't see any of this stuff. So thank you for just letting me know because, again, I would have nothing to say about it without some clarification. Yeah, I think the reasonable expectation is that Lincoln Riley steps in at USC in 2022 and they were 4-8 with the worst defense. This is inexplicable at USC, the worst defense in the Pac-12. And he goes 11-3, goes to the conference championship game, goes to the Cotton Bowl. So he exceeds expectations first year, but maybe Caleb Williams winning the Heisman has something to do with that.
Right.
You know, I would have thought, and probably did predict at the time, I'd have to go back, he goes from 4-8 the season before to 8-4. But then you would think it builds from there. It builds, and it's not necessarily in a perfect step-by-step trajectory, but something close to that, where in his fourth year, he's competing seriously for a conference championship, which means that you are safely in the playoff and you are a threat to go to the national championship game. Like, he has that kind of program, especially in this day and age where, again, you can rebuild a team in an off season.
Yeah. And well, I think we're looking at coaches now, and this is like this insane coaching carousel, you know, that we live in right now is Kurt Cignetti's like part of the problem, because like other programs are looking around saying, why can't you do what he did? He came in and took one of the worst, historical programs of all time in Indiana and has got them in the playoffs. I mean, they're basically a lock to make the playoffs 2 straight years. So yeah, he's kind of making it harder for coaches to just come in and get that like nice little cushion of like 4 or 5 years without any leash. So thanks, Cignetti, I guess, for making it harder on everyone else. But I also wanted to shout out. There were some comments earlier about Nebraska, and I know Nebraska is not a great team, but there was people like questioning Matt Rule and look, I mean, you say what you want about Matt Rule, say what you want about Nebraska. They're not like this great team or anything, but I will say they were not bowl eligible like 6 years in a row before he got there. And now they're bowl eligible like 2 years in a row. So, I mean, he's doing a fine job. Like, I don't think he's some amazing coach, and I don't think he would have been a good hire for Penn State, because he's basically just a James Franklin 2.0, in my opinion. But you can't really deny that the program is on at least a little bit of an uptick with him at the reins. So I just got to defend Matt Rule a little bit. I'm not saying he's some amazing coach or, he's Kurt Cignetti or anything, but he's done a decent job at Nebraska. He's got him back to at least bowl eligibility, which is something they haven't had for a while.
Yeah, as I alluded in my first question to Adam Carricker, I just think it's a shame when anyone gets hurt, but also just from the evaluation standpoint, Nebraska gets to this point. They're playing kind of a do or die game against USC. USC's in the same spot. We're all waiting to see, okay, who's going to break through? And then Raiola's not there the entire second half, basically. And it's still up to the coach to figure out a way to win the game and work with the players he has and do all that. But still, it's, for a team and a coach now in his 4th season that is still not getting to where he needs to get. It's just too bad that we didn't get to see a fully stacked Nebraska team with Raiola against USC to see if they would have advanced to the next week, to see if they could have continued on. So I like you think that he's a good coach, capable coach, a top 25 coach in the country, certainly. I don't know that he's a tremendous elite game-changing, program-changing coach.
No, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I thought I'd throw him a little bit of love. And then I guess the last thing, as a Notre Dame fan, I do have to say a little bit about them real quick. Man, I'll tell you what, listening to some Notre Dame podcasts can drive you insane if you're a fan. There's like some old heads, as they're referred to, some old players like Reggie Brooks, and I forget whoever else was on that podcast I was listening to earlier, but they were kind of like talking about the team, and they were saying like they were kind of criticizing CJ Carr, and like that was one of their nitpicks with the team this year. And I'm like, what are we doing, guys? He is a freshman, and he is playing extremely solid quarterback, like at the position. He's playing very well. Like, yes, he's not like top in the country or anything like that, but he's a super promising quarterback. He's playing very well. He's got one of the highest yards per attempt. He throws it deep all the time. Like, he's doing very well. So like the problem with Notre Dame this year has not been the quarterback position. Like, yeah, he didn't play his greatest game against USC, but he's had pretty much every other game he's looked very good. So I just thought that was kind of annoying. I mean, see Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price. If you want to criticize any offensive player from last week, he had 9 carries for 12 yards and a fumble in the red zone, and that's his third fumble in the red zone. That was, I think all 3 were recovered by the defense. So Jadarian Price is amazing. He'd probably be running back number 1 on almost any other team in the country. He's that good, but the guy cannot hold on to the ball. It's ridiculous. So that's his one Achilles heel. But I just thought it was kind of silly that we're sitting here criticizing a freshman quarterback, who is playing very well for Notre Dame's supposed woes this year. So anyway, just thought I'd let a little frustration out in that regard. Absolutely.
Anything else tonight?
Nope. I'm going to get off and let some other people on, Mark. Always great talking to you, and looking forward to the games this week.
Thank you, Rob. Talk to you later.
All right, later.
A couple coaching notes before we move on to the next call and a super chat. We're seeing all over the place that Ryan Silverfield, the Memphis head coach, who ironically a few weeks ago defeated Arkansas, will be Arkansas's next head coach. He's been at Memphis ever since Mike Norvell left. So that would be 2020 would be where Silverfield stepped in for Norvell. I believe he was on his staff, I believe, as offensive coordinator, and then replaced Norvell at Memphis. Has done a fine job. They've been one of the best group of 5 teams. And then also we had strong indication that this was the case anyway, but they made it official at Wisconsin today that Luke Fickell is going to be back for 2026. And the numbers concerning Wisconsin football this year are just deplorable. But they're going to give it one more go. I don't know what is going to have to happen at Wisconsin in 2026 for Fickell to maintain his job past that. I don't know if they're just looking for a better landscape of coaches and lack of availabilities out there that they don't have to compete against, and hoping that he puts the program in a place where they can hand it off to another guy. And then it's that things, number one, they can't get much worse. And number 2, that Luke Fickell, I still believe in him as, at some level, a good football coach and good program builder. He did that at Cincinnati. Check out what he did there. That they get placed in a position by Fickell in his final season to then move on from there, or that he's just going to completely turn it around. Not next season, but that next season is going to be the season that, okay, 6-6, we can work with that, and we think he's the guy, and here we go. Yeah, we all thought he was gone. I did, certainly. When you really look at it, it's funny that Auburn, LSU, Penn State, Florida, well, Oklahoma State would be the outlier. They're just as bad, if not worse, actually worse than Wisconsin. They're really bad. They're like FCS bad. So let's throw them out of the way. But those other jobs, it's funny, like Brian Kelly is winning 70% of his games. I'm not saying he shouldn't have been fired. That's not what I'm saying. And we know what James Franklin's accomplishing at Penn State, and Billy Napier, well, pretty uneven, barely 500 at Florida, but that Luke Fickell's team and program is in by far the worst shape. Like we were having the conversation last night about Auburn when we had Kyle Loomis on here talking Hugh Freeze, and just let this sink in. And again, not a defense for Hugh Freeze, but they got ripped off a touchdown against Georgia. They would have been leading 17-0 going into the half. I'm not saying that they would have won the game, but most teams do not lose 17-0 leads. They got ripped off. It's just not even debatable. They got ripped off a touchdown. They pretty much got ripped off the Oklahoma game. Again, I'm not the guy that says, well, because these were all bad calls, definitely Auburn would have won the game. But that, if I could choose one game to say that, that would be the one. And then the Missouri game, again, I won't say they got ripped off. Questionable calls late in the game, overtime, they lose. They were 4-4 going into the Kentucky game. They could have easily been 7-1. And the thing about it is they could have been 7-1, not because Hugh Freeze made a better decision here or would have made a better choice here. No, Hugh Freeze, if he would have done absolutely nothing different, zero, nothing, they still could have been 7-1. And he is the same exact head coach. For better or worse, that's how tenuous these situations are. Hugh Freeze gets fired for fielding a competent team at Auburn, although they blow games at the last minute, competent team that's taking the likes of Oklahoma and Missouri and Georgia to the wire. He gets fired. Luke Fickell's getting shut out 2 weeks in a row and scoring like 8 points a game the last 5 weeks or so, and he gets retained. Wisconsin, Auburn, pretty comparable programs, pretty comparable. I guess I'd raise Auburn slightly above Wisconsin in regards to expectations, slightly historically, recent history, but not much at all, because you can't win a national championship at Auburn. It's been done once in the last 15 years and 10 seconds away from doing it twice. So Auburn is on that short list of you can win a national championship at Auburn, and it's been proven multiple times. Really, my count is almost 3 national championships in the last 20 years at Auburn, 2004. So that's just, I think of those things as being very, like Mike Norvell. Who thinks Mike Norvell is doing a good job at Florida State? Nobody. But if Deuce Robinson just catches the ball in the end zone against Virginia, they win. That was the game. The game was over. But no, he juggled it like 18 times and he made a great catch, but he didn't need to make a great catch. He just needed to make the first catch, and he caught it out of bounds. So they lose the game against Virginia. If he catches that ball, they win against Virginia. If the officials, in no way should Florida State be messing around with Stanford. Stanford's terrible. But they could have escaped Stanford if the officials would have judged that replay just a little bit different. You know, is the ball over the plane, not over the plane? Mike Norvell could be easily 6-2 right now, and nobody's saying anything. Nobody's really paying attention to Florida State because they're kind of a bad 6-2. But he'd still have a job and be safe. Now he's fighting for his life against he's got 4 toss-up games the rest of the season. It's Clemson, the worst Clemson-Florida State game you could ever imagine. Clemson, NC State, Virginia Tech, and Florida. Those are all 50-50 games. All right. Let's head down the stretch. We got David stopping by. David, what's going on?
Yes. I think that it's very tedious with these coaches. By the way, I just want to say my compliments to your push-up, which you did last night. I didn't think you had that in you. I really didn't, by the way. Congratulations. I'm glad that I challenged you, Mark, and you were able to do it.
Well, thank you, David.
You
I
stepped
actually
up to the challenge.
went back and watched it just to see how pathetic it looked. I should have kept the camera up here and shot down at the floor so it could people. But anyway,
Yes.
not a good choice on my part, but I didn't know what it looked like exactly. I think it didn't appear, though. I could have done 50. Easy.
Yeah, you could have gotten there. Maybe a few less double stuffed Oreos. Who knows?
True.
All right. Let's talk about what? Oh,
red meat and asparagus and a salad for dinner tonight.
Look at you. We're back on the healthy eating train here a little bit. You go, Mark Rogers.
I need to go get some chocolate after this show, though.
Oh, you're jonesing. Okay. I could see that. All right. One quick comment on the coaches, and then I want to get to the docket this week a little bit, Mark. I think what you're talking about right now is college football continuing to morph into the NFL junior. I think you've got a lot of these money people. Steve Dace talked about this, and I don't agree with him all the time, but his point is well taken here. It's the money people that are moving the needle with these decisions, especially with the amount of money that are, is more so being invested in these rosters. I know the true blue college football fans don't want to hear that it's becoming the NFL junior, but I hate to be the ones to break the news to you. With the fact that you've got a transfer portal, with the fact that you've got an expanded playoff, and with the fact that we're paying the players, we've already jumped the shark here, folks. I mean, if you don't think we have, we're there. I like how people that supported it, are trying to still have their cake and eat it too. They still want it to be the college football of yesteryear, but then they want all these changes to happen, and they want the best of both worlds. Sorry, you can't have them both. You can't. And if this is the world we're going to live in, guess what? The money people are going to make the decisions. And I think that's what's happening. By the way, I don't know if you mentioned it, Franklin's one pass away. If Drew Aller doesn't throw the interception, or if his defense gets him a stop in overtime, who knows if the death spiral of that season happens. Because there are games that lead to death spirals. We've seen it in the NFL. We've seen it in college, Mark.
Yeah, I would agree. And again, I'm not defending Hugh Freeze as a good coach, a bad coach. I think he's capable. I think he's in the Matt Rule class. I think he's good at what he does, but he's not exceptional or anything. But I don't know why this fascinates me so much. I don't know that other people get hung on this, but I just think that's fascinating when you break down situations and look at games and see firings of coaches, to see many times how close the season was that sent them off the rails to being a successful season, where they would just we'd be talking about Auburn and a playoff spot right now.
You would be. By the way, Mark, since he did it for me, I'm going to extend him the courtesy. Darrell would like to join on if
okay. All right. Looks like I can take the night off here. You guys take it home here for 10 minutes.
We got you.
Hey, Darrell.
Hey, Darrell, we appreciate you being here. Let me do two things. Let me get to these super chats, and you guys can warm up your vocal cords. Adam, thank you so much for being here. Adam says the First Amendment does not apply to your show because you are not a state actor. Leave it to a lawyer to clear things up here. You mentioned in 1912, Titanic sank in 1912, and the captain was Edward Smith. Yes, Edward J. Smith. I think I would have gotten that in Trivial Pursuit. If Iowa wins out, should they make the playoff? Boy, we're all over the map there. We went historic. We went governmental, civics, and we also now brought it back to if Iowa wins out, should they make the playoff? Well, Adam, again, you're asking a question in a vacuum. I would need to know the rest of it. So I'll give you percentage chances, and I'll give you what I think. I think they should make a playoff, especially considering those two losses that they suffered are razor tight. But if Iowa State finishes 6-6, that's different than them being, let's say, 8-4. We expect Indiana to be, let's say, a Big Ten champion or the Big Ten championship game loser. So that's certainly a good performance out of Iowa. Wins over Oregon, USC. Those are the two best wins of the season. Nebraska is probably an 8-4 win.
Maybe 7-5.
Maybe 7-5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Darreel's going to jump on me for this, but I would like to see Iowa in the playoff at 10-2, and I think that they would make. I'd give them about a 60 to 65% chance of going.
Yeah, I'll use legal workaround since Adam's a lawyer. If they win out, they're guaranteed in because they would win the Big Ten title.
Oh,
so they would have a 100% chance to get in.
Well, no. Why would Iowa win the Big Ten title?
Yeah,
if they win out, they have to win the Big Ten title. If they win out, right? It doesn't say they only win in the regular season in that comment. You're making the inference that's what he's saying. So I'm using a different interpretation of his comment.
Okay.
That is unorthodox, but it could be interpreted that way.
So what we're saying here, and I actually think it's close. I have to see how the rest of college football shakes out. But I think if they beat Oregon, and I think if they beat USA, by the way, I think they've got a very good chance to beat Oregon this week. I have debated whether Oregon's been a little bit fraudulent this year. Maybe that's too strong of a term, but I think Oregon's been ranked a little bit as highly as they were coming into the season off of reputation. They lost a lot of talent off of last year's team. And, I think if you beat a 10-2 football team, you beat another 9-3 football team. I would have to see how it shakes out, but I think they've got a very good chance. Would you take that resume over Notre Dame's?
I would.
Okay.
But Notre Dame isn't going to be in the playoffs at 10-2. I still believe right now.
Okay.
ESPN has them at less than 10%. I'm trying to find exactly
Less
where
than
Iowa's
10 Is that Iowa or Notre Dame?
Yes, Iowa.
Okay. Well, they're a 6-point dog against Oregon, first of all, and they're going to be an underdog when they go to USC. They're probably going to be a 4 to 6 point underdog in that game.
Right.
Yeah, they're at a 7.4% chance to make the playoffs as of right now.
Yeah.
I take if we just crunch the numbers again, though, Darrell, and we say, are you still of the belief one ACC and one Big 12 get in?
I'm not as sure as one Big 12 because Texas Tech and BYU is 7 and 8 right now, and I think there is a scenario if BYU goes 12-1 and they lose the Big 12 title game.
Yeah, that would be
they
good.
would be in the playoff. I'm also worried that Texas Tech, if they lose this game, I don't see them dropping behind Utah, so they would have to be the 12th team. So there is a chance they could climb their way back in if Oregon and Notre Dame lose another game.
We could see like a Clemson type team get in, like the way Clemson had the bad regular season, but then they win the title game, and then they get in on the basis of winning the title game.
And just to clarify, Utah is probably the highest ranked team that has virtually no chance to get to the playoffs.
Right. But my point is Texas Tech destroyed Utah. Sure. So you can't rank Texas Tech behind Utah. So if Texas Tech loses to BYU, they're going to be the number 12 team in the country next week. Mm-hmm. Well, all you need is Notre Dame and Oregon to lose a game, and you would assume they would drop behind Texas Tech, which would place Texas Tech as the final team at an at-large spot.
Okay. Just to, did you want to make a point, Mark?
I would like to get to our Wisconsin friend here,
sure.
Ryan Willie, and then I'll let you guys take off. What the bleep is McIntosh thinking in keeping Fickle for 2026? Ryan, thank you so much for the contribution. And I addressed this a few minutes ago. From a football standpoint, and if the goal is to win a lot of football games and championships and contend in the Big Ten at Wisconsin, I don't know what he's thinking, even though I thought that was a great hire. It seems like 50 years ago. I think he's thinking the landscape of coaching vacancies puts them in a bad place, number one. Number two, that they've calculated how much money they would save by keeping Fickle through another season, that it can't get any worse. Maybe he pulls it together. And I don't necessarily know, as I stated a few minutes ago, that they're thinking Luke Fickle's the answer. We think he's going to turn this around, as much as they think, it might be a better place for us to go get the coach that we want a year from now. And maybe he can win 6 games and get us in just a better place, and we'll still fire him. They may fire him after 6-6 and not fire him after what could be 2-10.
Can I make a quick point on Luke Fickell? I've said this. He tried to zig when he, with the Phil Longo hire. If he would have just taken the Barry Alvarez playbook that was handed down generation to generation to generation to Burt, to, all the coaches that came after Barry, which is build the trenches up, find 1 or 2 good running backs, and play Wisconsin football, I think Luke would still be winning, 8 games a season, 9 games a season, as Wisconsin has done in the past under the Paul Chryst, under the Burts of the world. And I think his job would be safer. Now, is that the world that you want to live in for forever? There's maybe a statute of limitations on, but at Wisconsin, maybe that keeps you in good standing for a while. But he tried Phil Longo. They had a high recruited quarterback, and they tried to go with the more passing game oriented offense. Mark, I don't know if that was your thought there, but I think that was an error on his part.
Yeah, I won't take it to that degree, but I do believe I questioned that right out of the gate when he said this is the direction we're going to go. We're going to open things up. We're going to do things different. And he tried to placate the Wisconsin brand by saying, we still believe in X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And that's what we do at Wisconsin, but we're going to do this different. I think he got into trouble in that he hit spring practice, he hit fall camp, somewhere in that process, and realized what he didn't have there, and they kind of peeled back on it, and they got caught in the middle and didn't have an identity.
That's a good
And
point.
he didn't state it that bluntly, but you can tell by what he stated. Yeah, we're going to phase it in now, and we're going to hold to Wisconsin football, and we're going to try to ease in because we don't have the personnel, or however he stated it. So he got caught in between. That they did a horrible job in the transfer portal.
Yeah, that's
They
true.
they have picked up nobody of consequence in the transfer portal since he started. They've had bad luck at quarterback. So they've had bad quarterbacks, but they've also had bad luck at quarterbacks because they've not been able to keep a starter on the field past like game 3 in any of his seasons there. So that's one caveat to their demise. Plus, they have had to play against the toughest schedule in the Big Ten the last 2 years. You give, maybe this year's team is so bad it doesn't matter, but you give last year's team that took Oregon to the wire and played a decent game against Ohio State, actually, like a 24-10 game, 17-10 in the fourth quarter. You give that team the schedule like Nebraska has this year, or Michigan, last year's team, maybe they go 8-4.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wisconsin's schedule for next year, they play Notre Dame, at Penn State, USC, and at Iowa. I mean, those are 4 probable losses right there for them. They're just, this reminds me a lot of Billy Napier, when everybody kind of knows he's going to die, but
Yeah,
it's over. I don't just see how they recover.
So my final comment, Dave, to counter you, or to kind of piggyback on what you've said about Wisconsin, is Iowa plays prehistoric football. Even now, I know that our buddy Corey wants to think that they've like jettisoned themselves into the 21st century. They've crept, they've crawled in that direction, and it works for them. And Wisconsin, for most of the 2000s, has been a better version of Wisconsin. And a more functional one on offense. Certainly, they've had superstars at running back and offensive line. So why can't they? If I was continuing to churn out decent seasons, fringe top 25 kind of seasons, Wisconsin should be able to do the same thing.
Yeah, why not live in that world? Darrell, just to the playoffs, if I may, just to kind of run down the numbers here again. If we run it out, if it is one Big 12 and it is one ACC, and we go now, are you of the belief it's going to be 4 or 5 SEC? Where are you at this week?
It's borderline 5. 6 is probably pushing it because of
I think so.
Notre Dame travesty. Honestly, them at 10 is just projection. There is no rational reason Notre Dame's at 10, and it messes up a large portion of the rankings, to be honest with you. But the SEC is probably still going to get 5, and the Big Ten's probably going to get 2 or 3. Okay. It's looking more likely 2 than 3 because of the rankings. Because I was telling Mark this yesterday, if Washington goes 8-4, or Iowa goes like Iowa, Washington, USC, and Oregon, they're all going to beat up on each other at some stage.
Yeah.
And if they go 8-4, they're probably out, or at 25-24. And I just don't think that's enough to warrant Oregon to be in the college football playoff.
Okay. Well, okay. Just to do a head count then here, Darrell, if let's just say it's 4 SEC, 3 Big 10, 1 ACC, 1 Big 12, then you get the non-power 5. I think Notre Dame's okay at that point.
Yeah, they would literally be the border. They would be the last team in.
Yes.
That's the only way. Like, Notre Dame, to me, right now is at their ceiling of 10. The only team that can pass them is if other teams lose. They can't jump up. Okay.
Now, you are a believer. I don't think I should have to ask this question, but I think you know the answer to it, I should say. But I'm going to ask the question anyway. You're a believer that if Texas splits Georgia and Texas A&M and goes 9-3, they should be in.
Correct.
Okay.
I
And
believe
Mark,
they should be in over a 10-2 Notre Dame still.
okay. Mark, do you have a view on that?
Who are we comparing? Texas and who?
10-2 Notre Dame.
Yeah.
That's probably where the debate's going to be at the end of the year. And a 10-2 Oregon, if you want to throw them in.
10-2 Oregon, 10-2 Notre Dame, 9-3 Texas. That's the
Yes.
argument.
Yep.
Texas has the best resume.
Yeah. They do.
But are
I
they
mean,
going to be selected in?
Well, right now they're at 12. If they lose another game, let's
They're
say
at 11.
Texas A&M. I'm sorry, what's that?
They're at 11.
11. Okay, 11. Oklahoma 12. Let's say we're not talking about like horrible losses, 42-10. We're talking competitive games. They lose to Texas A&M,
yeah.
beat Georgia, or vice versa. I don't know which one really. Either you beat the better team and lose to the worst team, or vice versa. So I don't know how to grade that out. As long as they're close games. Yeah, I think those are impressive performances, one way or the other.
Right.
I would say this. If they beat, because if you split Georgia, especially if they knock off an undefeated Texas A&M, and that's their closing data point, gosh, I got to think that's really strong.
Yeah.
Well,
my point is that, or they beat Georgia, who's a top 10 team, and finishes 10-2, let's say, and they lose to Texas A&M, and they're the number 1, 2, 3 team in the country. It kind of weighs out the same.
Darrell, is Georgia dancing on the minefield, though? I mean, watching Georgia, they've had a lot of close games. Would you be surprised if Missouri pulled the upset this week, or you think any chance, or any thought on that?
Georgia plays Mississippi State, so I would be surprised.
Mississippi State. I misspoke. My bad.
No, you're all good. No, the SEC is the deepest, best conference. There's a lot of great teams in there. Georgia does play with fire, but they always win these games. It's like Alabama with Nick Saban. You got to, like Uncle Lou said this, and I agree with him, you got to almost beat Georgia twice in the same game to win. Like, Georgia will not falter and lose games. Where I think Mississippi State's going to have issues is like the Texas game. They should have won that game. They were up 17 points in the fourth quarter, but they found a way to lose. It wouldn't shock me if Mississippi State's beating Georgia in the fourth quarter and they completely collapse and blow the game. That's just what bad football teams and bad programs do, is find ways to lose.
See, I just look at this Georgia team, and maybe, you get victimized in sports when you've reached the pinnacle of the sport and you're getting compared to teams that came before you that were that much better teams. And I think that's when you look at a Georgia, you kind of look at them through that prism, Darrell. And I think that go ahead.
I was going to say, doesn't almost everyone have some sort of bias of doing that?
Yeah. But I think that there's also a feeling that maybe is Georgia, playing down to some competition, and maybe and I don't think Mississippi State is necessarily the team to get them, but down the pike with Texas, with maybe Georgia Tech at the end of the year, even, I don't know
about that, Georgia. Like, I understand because Georgia Tech's 8-1, but man, Georgia Tech as a football team's just. They're just not a good football team. They just don't pass the eye test for me. I don't know how to explain it, but they struggle against mediocre competition. I'm just not a believer in Georgia Tech. I think they're worse than all. I think they would be the worst team in the SEC if they played in the SEC.
The worst
team in the SEC. But we also saw an 8 overtime game between roughly. I know that their record wasn't anywhere close, but was Georgia Tech are they really that much better this year than they were last year when they went 7-6, 7-5 in the regular season? Take on a top 10 Georgia team, and they went to 8 overtime. So I would not be surprised if Georgia Tech wins that game. I don't expect them to.
I get what you're saying from it happening last year, but also it's like, how much of that is just college football? And some random team that's really good happens to struggle against an inferior team. It happens every week, and for Georgia, that just happened to be their week to struggle. against an inferior football team. And again, it goes back to my point of bad teams find a way to lose. Georgia Tech should have won that game. They were the better team throughout, but you know what? They just don't know how to win those type of football games where Georgia does.
I mean, yeah, I just, when I watch Georgia play, just eye test of watching Georgia play, they've got some parts I like. Actually, Stockton's been better at quarterback than I thought that he would be. The real thing with them is not necessarily from an offensive perspective. It's really, the Georgia defenses of yesteryear, and not seeing a Georgia defense with 3 or 4 guys that I know are going to go within the top 2 or 3 rounds of the NFL draft. Seeing the dominant defensive tackles that they've had in the past, front 7 people that they've had in the past from not so long ago is, you know what I mean?
You're absolutely right. I mean, their defense has been exposed twice by Tennessee and Ole Miss, whereas previous Georgia teams that wouldn't have happened to, especially Tennessee.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, but I think this is where a bit of we're not comparing Georgia to Georgia 2021-22. We're comparing Georgia to this year's football teams. And to me, Georgia is still one of the 5 or 10 best teams in the country. So they're going to get into the playoffs. The only thing that's interesting to me is what if Texas wins this week?
Yeah.
I don't see, Georgia will probably be ranked, 7 or 8, and Texas would be jumped all the way up inside. I'm very curious what they're going to do with the 2-loss SEC teams in that case. Do you think they would be ranked ahead of a BYU that's undefeated? Do you think they would be ranked behind them?
I think BYU gets a solid win this week. So if BYU goes to Lubbock and beats a team that's, a top 10 team, I mean, how are you going to be too rough on BYU?
I get what you're saying, but
I mean, that's on the road beating a solid football team. I mean, by the way, biggest game in Lubbock in quite about a minute, Mark, probably since that 08 Texas Tech game. Mike Leach.
1 minute, by the way. 1 minute.
Oh, okay. The Graham Harrell Michael Crabtree classic. But I get what you're saying, Darrell. I think that right now, I think Texas going 9-3 is the SEC's best chance to get 5 teams.
Right. And how likely do you think that is then? Because to me, it's it's about a 50-50 proposition at this point.
Yeah, with the way Georgia's playing, I guess because maybe that game's in Athens, I might be a little bit more apt to pick Georgia. I would say that Manning is playing better at quarterback as of late. A lot of people like the way he's trending right now. But, this is also the Texas team that lost to Florida, who fired their coach.
I understand that.
Bad in doing it.
Texas, to me, plays to their level of competition more than anyone else in the country.
I'm glad that Jordan asked this question.
Good.
How can you compare unranked wins? So, Jordan, I'm not going to pick on you, but basically I'm going to bring to light, this is the problem with analysis across the board. You should not be, nor should anyone be, just taking the rankings that are shoved down your throat and assessing value to teams based on the rankings that you're given. We should be comparing teams without rankings. That's exactly what we should be doing. We should be able to assess the results on the field, the performance on the field, without rankings involved, and not have the AP and now the College Football Playoff Committee tell us who's good, who's decent, who's not so good, and who's just off the grid because you don't have a 25 next to your name. You suddenly suck. You're not. You're 25, but then if you're 26, you're in oblivion. Jordan, please think about it. Do not buy into that. We do a better job of evaluating teams without the rankings. Get rid of the rankings. Get them out of your head.
Right. Every team should be ranked. They should have ranked Memphis instead of them being in the playoff. They should say they're 33. They're 35. That way we have some idea.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead,
I
Mark.
truly believe that. And if I had the time and the resources, I would rank every team in the country every week.
Yeah.
Right. And if the playoff committee is going to rank all these teams up to Memphis, at least tell us who they are. I mean, at least tell us. I mean, you've got the numbers and list right there. Tell us. Give us more data to work with.
Well, the committee seems to have an interesting way because there's never this set in stone way that they do it. I mean, they kind of go back and forth week to week on what they put the emphasis behind, which has always been, I think, a bit of the frustration, I think, to a certain extent. Is it eye test or is it, this is a bad loss, this is a quality win,
Oh, it's
and
whatever it wants it to be to justify their narrative is what it is.
that's right.
All right. So my 2-minute warning was 5
Yes.
minutes ago.
Yes, sorry.
Dave, appreciate you being here.
Yes,
Surreal,
Mark.
thank
The
you.
real pleasure.
Again, we'll be back tomorrow
Pleasure,
night.
Dave.
See you, Mark.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
All right. Voice of College Football here every night. And we will be back on Friday. Please hit the like button on the way out. And I will continue to say, whether this channel continues for the next 50 years, that will obviously be without me. Although I did watch some videos last night. I don't know how this got on my YouTube feed of preferences, but what are they called? What? Oh, shoot. I lost the term for a individual who has reached 100 years old. But anyway, they were interviewing 100-year-old plus people about their secret to longevity. So if I'm here 50 years from now, yes, I will have passed the century mark, so we could still be here. But other than that, at whatever point we shut down the channel, it would be because maybe the Amazon link was not used by all of you. So if there's one thing that you do to support the channel, it's not share the videos. That would be great. I don't really care about that, though. It would not be a lot of other things. It would not even be hitting the like button, which you should. We would love that. That helps the algorithm with YouTube. But if you would, when you shop on, because I know that if there are 55 people watching right now, which my goodness, I'm going to go back and I'm going to compare our shows to previous years. And that's another issue right there. But anyway, 55 people and not 150 people watching or 250 people watching that used to watch, that if you use the Amazon link, and I know that not all 55 or 60 of you, I think we were at like 75 at one point, use Amazon. I get it. But you know what? About 85% of you do, that if you use the Amazon link that we provide, that we'll still be doing this infinitum. Without it, hey, I may disappear tomorrow. Who knows? I have no idea when we'll pull the plug. All right. We'll see you on Friday. I guess I'm promising Friday for sure. We live one day at a time. So I can't even promise Friday because I was going to say something very, very, very odd, concerning what we've seen in recent months concerning people being eliminated. So I won't state that. Tukey G says algorithm suppression. I've heard that. I've heard that surmised at times. So I don't know what they would be coming after me for. I'm just a little guy that makes hardly any money, that scratches together like 37 cents a month doing this. So I don't know why they would be coming after me, except for I've got a certain former employer that's in bed with YouTube and they don't like me. So maybe I've kind of wondered about that myself. But Tukey G, thank you for being here and we appreciate it. And we'll see you on Friday, God willing.